Hello again, beautiful people. I am back in Los Angeles, and that's why I've got a bit of a different background than what you guys are used to. Of course, you're used to the Joshua Tree background nowadays. We will be going back to Joshua Tree for about another month, just so you're aware of the flipping back and forth. And actually, a lot of you have asked me what this symbol represents. It's actually called the Shri Yantra, and it's a very ancient Hindu symbol. I've gotten some angry emails in the past about me having some sort of satanic pentagram behind me, and that's definitely not the case. So educate yourself if you are curious about this symbol. It's really beautiful, very powerful. Love it. I love being back. All right, so today we're talking all about George Floyd, we're talking about Trump, we're talking about conspiracies, we're talking about what exactly is going on today in the world, across America. It's pretty insane, and of course, right now I am right in the heart of everything. So so we're going to be kind of deep diving today. Also, how do we help our friends and family members wake up if they're stuck in 3D? So I've got tons of really incredible questions from all of my members, and I do want to remind you that only my members can ask questions, which I already have all of your questions. I went through about 100 different questions, and I think I came to about 22 questions in the end. The ones that I felt were the most impactful for people, for humanity. And and then of course my members are the only ones who are able to comment in the little chat message box. So if you want more or extra content and you want to be able to ask me questions, sign up and be a member. All right. One more thing before we begin. I am clearly a white woman, and I'm not an expert in this field whatsoever. I really stay away from the news. I really don't have a lot of extra information, and we'll talk a little bit about the Galactic Federation, but they've been pretty silent on this, and I'll tell you why they've been silent on this. So I just want to start with a disclaimer to say that I'm not an expert. I'm clearly not a black person experiencing this movement. So take everything that I have to say with a grain of salt. Most of the messages or the information that you will hear today are more opinions. Of course, let's say, for example, a more educated opinion based on my background and my ability to channel, but it's just that. It is not the truth by any means, especially with this type of topic, all right? So I have to just put that disclaimer out there and say, if it resonates with you, great. If not, no big deal, right? There are other pieces of information like that reptilian video or the Galactic Federation messages that are right from the horse's mouth, and I would say those are really important to listen up to. These are just things to think about that are going to help you lift your vibration throughout the chaos. Okay, cool. I also have my alien mug. Sorry, I just had to show that off. Okay, so let's begin. First question here from Stacy. Stacy Solomon. Hi, Elizabeth. Was the George Floyd incident created or staged to create all of this upheaval? A lot of you asked me this question. And I don't have an answer for you. And I have to be super real, super honest about what I can and cannot answer. And this one, first of all, no information is coming to me. I have asked, and I have not received any information about was it staged, is it real, is it legit, whatever. I'm not getting any information about that. The reason why is because ultimately, we all should already know that the government is corrupt. Ultimately, we should all already know that things like crisis actors, and if you don't know what a crisis actor is, just Google it. We should all already know that these things exist, right? That the government is corrupt, that absolutely things like that can and do happen. And I do believe that there are some falsities. I believe that there are some things that have been staged within this whole dynamic. But don't get caught up in what is staged and what is real. Because ultimately, we have people all over the world right now who are coming together in unity for one cause. And that's ultimately what matters, because ultimately, that's what's going to change things. Yes, it's a big distraction. And I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of a nice break from all of the coronavirus bullshit, right? So I don't want to say that it's a good thing because it's a nice break. I'm saying it's a good thing because we're finally fucking uprising against the corruption. Even though if part of what's happening is still corruption, we need to look at the end result, okay? So I won't give you a definitive answer on that, but I'll plant a couple of seeds for you guys to think about. All right, next question here. Weedless asks the question, hi, how do you hold the faith and not slip back into 3D in the midst of current events, knowing the ultimate agenda behind the veil, especially when the collective fear is so intense right now? Good question. So ultimately, how do you prevent yourself from slipping back into 3D? Especially, not only is this a huge, large-scale worldwide event that's currently happening on top of another huge worldwide scale event that's happening, but it's creating more polarity, right? Like, okay, I don't want to say it's like creating more polarity overall, but it's definitely creating polarity. It's definitely creating a divide, and it's definitely also creating a lot of fear and a lot of conspiracy theories. We've got even more questioning that's happening right now of what is real, what is not real, what should I believe in, what should I stand for, right? And so, yeah, so the number one thing is keeping in mind, just repeating to yourself that everything is happening exactly the way that it needs to. Once again, I will repeat that. Everything is happening exactly the way that it needs to. We need to remind ourselves this and remember that this is a very powerful time, an exciting time to be alive. Okay? So don't slip into the polarity, don't slip into the conspiracy, don't slip into the right or wrong, and just remember that it's all happening for a reason. Take yourself a step out of 3D matrix. Okay? Okay, good questions. All right, Denise, how can we encourage peaceful and effective forms of protest for equality and unity? Great question. Once again, I'm not an expert in this, all right? So this is not like the ultimate say of this topic. These are just my opinions. Okay. Yeah, how do we encourage peaceful and effective forms of protest? To be honest, I think that we're doing a pretty good job. Like, at first, it was super intense, and maybe potentially a lot of the rioters, not the protesters, not the peaceful protesters, but maybe potentially a lot of the rioters were trying to deter the protests, and that's why it came out so explosive at first, and now it's kind of dying down. I mean, the protests are still going on every day, but the energy and the anger is dying down within the crowds. There's still a lot of anger online, though, I'm finding. We're going to get to that a little bit later. So as far as like putting your hands up and saying, you know, we deserve peace. Everyone deserves peace and equality, right? We're recorrecting the system. The other thing that I've seen that's really positive that's happening right now is we are reforming aspects of the government, and we're reforming aspects of the police. Reforming, right? As far as defunding, I don't really have a say on that, right? There's negative and positive aspects of defunding the police. Yeah, I'm not even gonna touch upon that. But as far as effective forms of protest, as long as we can all come together in unity and decide on an end outcome, what do we all want? What is the end outcome of this? And reforming politics and reforming our corrupt police structure, I think would be really good, really powerful there. Okay, so another question here from Akasha. How can we best help raise the vibration of humanity? Really great question. So ultimately, it's kindness, it's showing love. Ultimately, it's, I know you can't really smile at your neighbor anymore because of the freaking masks, but raising vibration for humanity. There's so many little things that we can all do at home, and there's so many things that we can do online, we can do with our own networks. Like I went through those 3 steps of solutions of how we can bring the divide together into unity. So yeah, so there's a lot of things, but really honestly, just spreading kindness and peace and love and oneness, no matter where you go, is going to be the best thing. When you get wrapped up into semantics, when you get wrapped up into posting on social media just because you feel obligated to post on social media, you're not helping the collective. You're not, right? You're doing something because you feel like you need to jump on the bandwagon. You need to ask yourself, step number 1 that I relayed in Monday's video is you need to ask yourself, how do I feel about all of this? Where do I stand in all of this? Do I need to say something? Do I want to fight? Or do I continue to work on the energetic grid system of the planet? Do I continue to change the core of the planet to diamond frequency, right? Like there are so many light workers who are doing incredible work that we never talk about, and they're healing the planet right now, right? And I want to say thank you to all of you because you don't get paid for that work. And I know that you're doing that work, right? So yeah, so I mean, make a small difference in your reality and make a small difference in the reality around you. And you're doing incredible amounts of work in healing the divide and in raising the vibration of humanity, okay? Okay, good. We've got a question here from Francisco. Hi, EA. What do you think about polarity going to an extreme? Good question. Like when these 2 different ideas get so radical, they feel so extremely separated from each other, what happens next? How does the universe balance this? Really great question. So the way that I look at it is like an elastic band, right? This is exactly how I see division and polarity, right? So when we stretch that elastic band further and further and further and further, and that polarity gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and more and more and more opposite, eventually that elastic band is going to snap back into the present moment, right? It's going to snap back into equilibrium. We have to actually purge out the division. We have to actually purge out the imbalances within humanity in order to snap that elastic band back. We need to separate in order to equalize. For far too long, polarity and inequality has been imbalanced for a very, very long time on this planet with many different minorities. And even back in the day, it used to be, are you Catholic? If you're not Catholic, then you're the minority, right? And you would get persecuted for not being Catholic, right? Regardless of your race or skin tone, it was belief and religion. So there's always been an inequality. There's always been a divide, and we have to stretch that divide, whether that be, Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement, or George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. We have to stretch that divide in order to bring things back into an equilibrium. So I'm like all for polarity. I am all for extremes, because if we don't go extreme, no one actually looks at the problem. That's the problem. We've always been imbalanced, but no one's really been looking at it, right? So every step forward is a step in the right direction, is what I believe. Okay, good question here from Lisa. Oh yeah, this is really interesting. This isn't really a question. This is kind of like an observation that I really wanted to put in here. Okay, so I see people who have the sign, I can't breathe, with a mask on. And I wonder if it's some sort of cosmic irony that no one is really noticing, right? So George Floyd couldn't breathe, and yet all of us are in these masks. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a very tough time dealing with the whole mask idea. And I wear bandanas all the time anyway, so I guess I'm like already part of the fashion statement. But yeah, so I just, I think, Lisa, that was a great point for you to bring up, is the whole I can't breathe being George Floyd, but also we're all, sitting with masks on, really, truly not being able to breathe properly. I don't have anything to say about that. I just wanted to bring it up to say, very interesting. Okay, going over to Sarah. Okay, this is really good, and I'm gonna make a statement that is gonna be extremely triggering, and I hope that you can feel the sentiment in it. And then if you hate me for it, that's fine. You know, it's whatever. I'm gonna say it anyway. All right. So a question here from Sarah. I find it hard. I find it difficult at times to believe that Trump is a light worker, especially since Trump administration is discriminating against LGBTQ community as well as so many other things. Do you know why he is creating the separation and divide? Okay, so if you watched my video, which apparently a ton of people have watched recently, which is the video Trump is a light worker, you basically understand that I'm playing upon these words, Trump is a light worker. I actually never said in the video if he's a good guy or a bad guy, because I'm not here to play within polarities of pinpointing one thing or another to say this is good and this is bad. If I told any of you at any time one thing that is good and one thing that is bad, or a diet that is good and a diet that is bad, or a way to live your life and a way not to live your life, if I made that choice for you at any time, I am taking your power away from you. Any teacher, any leader at any time who makes that choice for you is disempowering you. It is ultimately up to you to make that choice. So, this is where I'm going to probably get some flack, but I'm going to say it. This is so bad. Okay. I believe also that Hitler was a light worker. I know, right? If I had like an audience in front of me, there would be like gasps, like, what? Okay, and the reason why I believe this, and let's just maybe open and expand our minds on what a light worker is. On this planet, we have had contracts to have both light and dark. And actually, we're going to target this a little bit later on in the questions. On this planet, we have had contracts for both light and dark. What in your life has propelled you into your spiritual awakening right here? It was probably a pretty shitty moment in your life. It was probably a car accident, or a job loss, or a divorce, or a cancer diagnosis. I almost guarantee you that you got to your spiritual awakening through a very dark moment in your life. For me, it was depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, questioning everything without having any of the answers. The darkest moment in my life began my greatest quest of awakening. If we didn't have these characters on this planet who volunteered their souls to be here, like imagine that, right? Like let's take a whole step back from Trump. Let's take a whole step back from Hitler and just imagine them as a soul, okay? A soul who is a reflection from universal source consciousness. So imagine a soul who signed up to be Hitler, right? I mean, they were a pure divine source expression of consciousness. When they signed up for that contract, everything that they did was allotted, right? They was signed up. It was predestined. And it needed to happen on this planet so that once again, we rebalance in equilibrium. So that's why I believe Trump is a light worker, is because he was a soul who signed up for this contract to completely shake up the system. Don't get stuck in negative, positive, good, bad. Take a huge step back and realize that his soul signed up for this contract to do all of this stuff to change things. Let go of change things for the good or the bad. He's different. He's pushing our boundaries. He's allowing us to see the holes and the flaws in the system. He's allowing us to notice and recognize that every single politician, up until this point in time, has been lying to us. He just does it blatantly, right? He's a buffoon. He really is. It's laughable. It really, really is. But once again, I respect his contracts. I mean, it fucking takes a very strong soul to be put into that position. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be Trump. I couldn't have those contracts. No way. I'm not strong enough for that. Do you see what I'm saying here? Hopefully there's not a whole lot of reaction in this statement. Hopefully you see the bigger picture that I'm seeing. That's how I look at the world. And in a lot of ways, that's why I'm having difficulty myself with what's currently going on right now. And, I posted an Instagram post and I made the vast mistake of saying all lives matter, which I believe, but watch out for the rhetoric, these days, right? I was called a white supremacist and a racist and check my white privilege. And I get it, right? So I had a good conversation with a friend of mine who's a social worker. She's got her master's degree and she's white as well. But, she's like, hey, like you posted the wrong thing. And I said, what do you mean I posted the wrong thing? Like we're unifying, right? We're bringing equality together. We're understanding that all lives matter. And she's like, oh, don't say it. I'm like, what? And so she just basically gave me like a 2-hour long lecture about how this was so wrong and it is racist to say that. And so at the end of it, I'm like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where everyone's coming from, that we need the equality of the most marginalized first, and then all lives matter, but all lives still do matter. I don't know. It's really hard. And then she kind of laughs at the end of the conversation and she's like, you know what? She's like, you're just an alien and you don't understand human dynamics very well. And I'm like, yeah, I don't. And some part of me is, I don't want to, right? I don't want to get wrapped up in that polarity. But anyway, so it's been very difficult for me to deal with that. But hopefully that helps you understand why I use the words Trump is a light worker, right? That's it. I'm just going to leave it there. Okay, cool. Some of you were asking like, oh, what does the Galactic Federation say about Trump, getting reelected? Once again, it doesn't matter. It does, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. You need to just trust in the universal flow that everything that needs to happen is happening for a reason. Okay. Josephine, how could you speak on what we as a collective may be feeling physically during this time and what we can do for our human bodies? Really great question. So ultimately, you should probably be feeling all the things, having really restless sleeps, having bouts of anxiety, maybe feeling really sad or depressed, questioning things, spiraling into third dimension, spiraling into fourth dimension, spiraling into conspiracy theories. Just spiraling. Let's just call spiraling, all right? You guys are all empaths. You're all very sensitive. You're all feeling everything that's going on in the world. Don't get wrapped into it, okay? This is the perfect time right now to remove yourself and to practice healthy boundaries. Okay. So, Casey, my question is about parenting. How do I help my already depressed and anxious teenager through this tumultuous time? We already limit the screens and hold space for him to emote. This is really good. If you have younger kids, they may not be feeling as much of what's going on, in that way. Of course, teenagers, this is their, these are their years to kind of discover themselves. So it might be a little bit more angsty and definitely a little bit more depressed. Your teenagers, your children are here on this planet for a reason. The number one thing that I would recommend for you, Casey, and just any other parent out there who's kind of struggling with a teenager or an early adult who is depressed, is just, like you're already doing, hold space for them, and also try and promote new activities, right? Even from home. So maybe you buy your teenager son, a robotics kit, and they build the robot and they feel accomplished in doing so. Right? So exposing them to other things that they can be doing. Or maybe it's a Lego set. I'm 27 and I love Lego. So new hobbies are going to be really good. My mom, she rearranges her furniture in her house probably 5 times a month, right? And I'm like, Mom, you need a new hobby. And then finally, when I pushed her and pushed her and pushed her, she finally got onto YouTube DIYs. And now she's like making all of these things at home, and she's occupying herself, and she's feeling good, and she's not as restless and anxious. Okay, so movement in one direction or another and finding something new, or maybe it's a cooking class, or maybe it's a new hobby, or maybe it's yoga or whatever, is going to be really good for your mental health. Okay. All right. Okay, so Esther, I have close friends and family members who now think I'm losing my mind. Yeah, join the club. When I state my opinions about what's going on in the world right now, is it best to just not talk to them about all of this? This is a great question, and it came up a couple of times in the members' Q&A. So here's what I recommend, okay? And I actually mentioned this in my last members video about playing the human game. And if you're a member and you haven't seen that video, it's amazing. It's the pool video when I was channeling in the pool. Okay, so it's okay to play the game with other human beings, which means it's okay to speak someone else's language just to equalize and neutralize the vibrational frequency between the two of you. You don't have to spout out the truth in every moment. If anything, if you are talking about the truth to someone who is not open to listening to the truth, you are hitting a brick wall and you are going nowhere, okay? So the most important thing is just be open. If you're like, okay, cool, let's talk about the weather today. Talk about the weather. Don't waste your time and energy trying to push something that someone isn't open for. Okay, you're just going to continue to hit this wall over and over again until you're finally done with it, right? And the other thing too is try not to dive too deep into conspiracies with your friends and family, because ultimately, I don't want to say that ultimately they are going to think you're crazy, but ultimately that is polarity. That's fourth dimension density. You want to be in 5D. You want to help them out. You want to spread kindness and love. You don't need to push some sort of agenda. You could say, check out QAnon, and that's it, and plant a seed and walk away. You don't have to tell them all about it, right? So it's a healthy boundary, a healthy balance, guys. Okay, so Bendis, what if I don't feel that I belong in this time with all these events happening? What if I feel I should be a part of something finer, more subtle? 100%. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of light workers right now who are doing a lot of really great work for humanity. And they're a part of something finer. You don't have to be rioting or picketing on the street to make a change, right? If anything, you should allow this opportunity of uprising to spread even more love, to spread even more kindness to the planet and the world. Yeah, okay. So it's okay to just take a big step back from everything that's going on. Okay, so this is a really interesting statement, and I'm going to try and summarize it because it's a really long paragraph, but it's from Eagle. So they're talking about, Okay, so I found in media that people are sharing photos that a police officer who killed a black man is an actor. So I'm wondering, maybe is it Antifa or a real protest about Black Lives Matter? I think all lives matter. Why do I think like this? In Lithuania, people protesting against vaccines, COVID-19, and government. Not a lot of people come to meetings not a lot of people come to these meetings. But today on Facebook, I saw that tens of thousands of young people were coming together to protest that Black Lives Matter. I never saw so many Lithuanian people come together in one place. The biggest question is why? Because in Lithuania, there's not a whole lot of black people in Lithuania living here. So it's a very rare thing to see black people in Lithuania. So why are people protesting and saying that Black Lives Matter? It doesn't seem like a logical thing in Lithuania. Maybe this thing is reptilian beings planning to take our attention away from real things to be in peace. I hope you understand what I wanted to say. Yeah, for sure. So basically, you're asking the question of, So people in Lithuania are protesting COVID-19, vaccines, government, and yet no one shows up. Then all of a sudden, this huge Black Lives Matter thing, and everyone's showing up, and it doesn't even correlate to the current dynamics of the country, right? I think I really wanted to include this one in here because I think it's a really interesting observation. I don't have too much to say about this, right? I'm not going to get into like reptilians setting this up or, or whatever, crisis actors, which once again, I do believe in crisis actors. I do believe that there's a part to play in this. But I also believe, like I mentioned in Monday's video, that everyone's been quarantined, everyone's been at home, everyone's been feeling restless, and everyone just wants to get out on the street and stand up for something. And I wish, okay, I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this, but once again, like, I'm not going to hold back and watch what I say because I'm scared of rattling the masses because of semantics, right? I wish that this global protest was for world peace or for the environment or for, the takedown of religion or something like that. I mean, I'm glad that we are equalizing and neutralizing a lot of the pain and the hurt and the issues that we've had with Black rights and Black people. And I'm also very happy to see people all across the world standing together for one cause, right? Regardless of what that cause is, we're standing together. And that's really nice to see. But, you make a really great point here, Eagle, which is, so we're not standing together really for vaccines. We're not really standing together for government reform. We're not really standing together for COVID, but we're all standing together for this, right? So once again, I think that this was just the tipping point. This was the thing to throw everyone over the edge. And sure, let's do it, as long as you're not just hopping on the bandwagon to hop on the bandwagon because it's a cool thing to do on social media. And that's also a very fine line too. And I am going to point it out because I don't really like involving myself in that, in that rhetoric and that polarity either, right? So like I said, I wish that this happens again for a cause that everyone can believe in and everyone can stand for. And everyone can stand for Black rights. Yes, I know. Okay, but it's still so triggering for so many people. And that's why I'm stuttering over my words, is because there's going to be people in the comments who are going to be hating this video and what I'm saying, even though all I'm spreading is unity for everyone. And apparently that's wrong right now, I get it. I understand the sentiment. I understand what's going on right now. But I really hope that this happens once again and we can all stand up for the environment. We can all stand up for something to make a huge change globally. We now see that we have the numbers. We now see that people are ready to fight for the rights of other people. That's incredible, right? We're all standing up for this one minority. That's amazing. Now let's all stand up together for something that impacts each and every one of us every single day. Right? So that's what I'm going to say. I'm definitely going to get in shit for all of that, but it's whatever. I still believe in all of it, right? Okay, so Christy, I have been meditating and sending love and old generational, I have been meditating and sending love and old generational wound healing. How do we stay aware of the corruption and stay grounded at the same time? How can we make people aware who don't want to see? Great question. Okay. So you can't make people aware who don't want to see. It pretty much ends there, all right? Full stop, period, mic drop, walk away, right? You can't make people aware who don't want to see. That's it, right? I mean, there's nothing else I can say about that. But how do you stay aware of the corruption and stay grounded at the same time? It's always got to be, so once again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, okay? The fifth dimension frequency is about having the ability to control hopping in and out of different polarity states. Okay? Once again, the fifth dimension frequency is having the ability and control of hopping in and out of different polarity states. Okay. Okay, cool. Today I'm going to dive into conspiracy theories, and tomorrow I'm going to meditate on world peace. And then the next day I'm going to work with the grid system, and then the next day I'm going to send some food to my neighbor, right? So as long as you are in full control of saying, today I'm going to hop into conspiracies and I'm going to protest on the streets, and tomorrow I'm going to meditate at home and connect to the collective consciousness, as long as you're in control of that, do it. But if you're like, we have to fight, I'm going on the streets, I'm rioting. If you're making any choice in your life through reaction, then you are holding yourself back from 5D frequency. Even if you're making a choice that is for unity and for love and for equality, right? Even if your intentions are right, if you're still making that choice out of reaction, you don't know if it's really your choice that you're making. If I put a ton of fear into all of you and I said, if you eat a banana, the next time you eat a banana, you're going to get poisoned and you're going to die, right? Then all of a sudden, all of you are going to start throwing out your bananas at home, right? So it's a silly choice that you're making. But if you're making it out of fear, and especially fear that is not your own, then how do you know that that's a choice that you want to make, right? So you need to check your reactions. And one of the most powerful things that I said in my Monday video was action without reaction, resistance without violence, right? Action without reaction. And if every moment of your day can be full of action without reaction, you're killing it. You are coming from a place above the polarity, a 5D place, right? So that's how you understand the corruption and you continue to stay grounded, right? You don't get sucked into it. Okay, Stephanie. Hi, EA. Can you talk about the general divide between light and dark? As we ascend to higher energies, does that mean that we will have even darker energies around us to act as a counterbalance? Is the universe 50-50, 50% light and 50% dark at all times? Great question. Yes. Okay. So I definitely know the answer to this because I have seen and participated in a lot of light and dark battles on this planet, in the astral realm, and out there in the universe in many different incarnations. So ultimately, it's kind of sad to say, because I assumed, like years ago, I assumed that the worst that it could get, the worst that it could be, was right here on this planet between the polarity that we're currently experiencing. Right? Between light and dark, right? Like this is the worst. I mean, it gets better when you're a Palladian. It doesn't. There's still polarity when you're a Palladian. When you are an eighth dimensional Palladian, there is going to be a low vibrational being that matches your vibration, but in the opposite. What I've learned is that we live in a binary universe, which means that if you have one, you have the other. If you have light, you have dark. If you have one, you have zero, right? It's a binary universe. So do I want to say that it gets a lot better out there? Yes. Can I say that it gets a lot better out there? No. It's not just all love and light out there in the universe. Every single dimension, every single incarnation that you could ever be in this universe experiences polarity in a variety of degrees, right? So I asked the Galactic Federation about this years ago, probably in like 2013, 2014. And I said, so when this huge awakening takes place, when this huge transition takes place, what does that mean? Are we getting rid of all of the darkness? And basically what they said was, okay, let me just like put it very simply. If you have like 100,000 people who are pure white light, okay? And say in the past we had like 100 people who were pure white light. 100,000 people who are pure white light. And in the past, in our old dynamics, we had 1%, let's say. We had 100 people of 100,000 people who were dark. But they weren't just dark, they were like evil and like really like they were like the reptilian scum of like the universe, right? And so in the past we had a lot of people who were just kind of in the middle. We had some people who were very powerful light workers, but very few. And then we had a whole group of individuals who are very intensely dark reptilian whatever beings, right? And so what they said is that all these really dark, like if you think about like a grayscale and these dark beings like being pitch black, and then it goes lighter and lighter and lighter to the light side. So these beings apparently, as they get kicked off, what's going to happen is that there's going to be an equilibrium within society. More people are going to be light and wake up, but simultaneously, those light individuals are going to find a balance within themselves. Just like saying that in the past, it was all divine masculine, and now we're getting to a place of not just all divine feminine in the age of Aquarius, but we're getting to a place where we all should have both divine masculine and feminine balanced within us moving forward. Right? So instead of just 1% being super dark and evil and controlling and power hungry and money hungry, and then the rest of us kind of being aloof and a little bit confused, and some of us being very aware, right? Now, hopefully we have everyone who's aware, everyone who's ascending to 5D, and in that place, yeah, we're going to have shitty days and we're going to be able to transmute it, and then we're going to have really great days and we're going to be able to relish in it, and we're going to have best of both worlds, right? So instead of having the division of light and dark on this planet, every single one of us is going to be balanced within light and dark at an individual level. That's how it was explained to me way back in the day, because I had the same question too. Like, what does it mean if we're purging out the darkness on this planet? I mean, where's the balance going to remain? It's going to remain within each and every one of us. We are going to be whole individuals moving forward. Good question, Stephanie. All right. Aaliyah, how do you deal with people who are hopelessly stuck in 3D matrix and racial divide? Yeah, so the biggest thing is just checking yourself. I mean, there's nothing that you can do to someone who is stuck in racial divide or 3D. There's nothing that you can do. All you can do is show them kindness, right? What you can do within yourself is check yourself. Make sure that you don't have any sort of, racial inequalities or like perceptions within yourself, making sure that you aren't judgmental on anyone else, whether it be ageism or the gay community or different races or what have you. Check your own prejudice, right? That's the best thing that you can do at this time. Don't try and deal with other people who are hopelessly stuck, and try not to get stuck in semantics and rhetoric and you said this and that's wrong. We're furthering the divide if we do that. We are. Like, come on. Don't hate someone who's trying to stand up for equality and who says the wrong thing even though their intentions are pure. Feel the intention. Don't get caught up in the words, right? Okay, good. Okay. So Esther, what does the future of law and order look like after we have fully ascended to 5D? Police, judge, jury, prison systems, etc. Really great question, Esther. I don't have an answer for you. I have not, I don't really get a whole lot of huge answers like that in relation to the future of humanity. And the reason why is because it's so open right now, right? Like it's like humanity is a blank canvas and we're just starting to paint on it and figure out what we want collectively. I will say though, this is really cool. My mother-in-law is Swiss, okay? And so she was born and raised in Switzerland, and then she moved to the UK, and then she moved to America eventually. And she got a letter in the mail the other day, right? And she's like, oh, another one of these. And I said, oh, what is that? And she said, oh, well, you know, every time there is a law that is being reformed or an opportunity to reform the government, the Swiss citizens get a voting ballot in the mail. And she's like, I always fill them out, you know, even though she's been in America for the past 30 years, right? She's like, I always fill these out. You know, I always want to have a say in my country. So how amazing is that, really? Like, can you imagine that one day all American citizens get a notice in the mail to say, hey, we're reforming the judicial system. What do you want to see, right? Between this law and this law and this law. What do you think that we should be reforming? How amazing. And then you just vote. You vote on that ballot of what you want to see to change. Like, that's amazing. So that's already happening in really incredible countries in the world. Like, all the solutions. Like, I think New Zealand, was it New Zealand or the Netherlands? I don't know. There's a country out there that has completely gotten rid of all of their coronavirus cases. That's amazing. So why aren't we looking at systems who already have it figured out? And I'll tell you why I think, as a Canadian, that America refuses to look at other systems who have it figured out. It's the pride, right? And not the pride of the people, it's the pride of the government system itself, right? It's like the American government system boasts that they are the powerhouse of the world, and to be honest, they are the laughingstock of the world in a lot of ways. And I'm saying that as a Canadian living in America right now. And I don't want to offend any Americans, but I do want to say that right now, it's almost like America as a whole is having an ego death, right? And of course, the world as a whole is having an ego death. But everything that has been wrong with America for a very long time is finally starting to be purged out. And everything that made America great is going away, right? The president, the politics, the mass media is a laughingstock and full of lies, and everyone's starting to wake up to that. The policing system, the military, it's all a laughingstock right now, right? The money, right? America used to have these, what are they called? Federal reserves. That's a laughingstock. Right? There's nothing going on in there. Nothing. Trust me, I've checked it out. Yeah, so it's having an ego death, and we need to reform. And I think that there are systems out there that I think that we can reform into, is all I'm going to say. Okay, cool. Maybe, maybe like one or two more questions. Okay. Chantel, what can we do to prepare ourselves and others for coming times? Is there anything that we need to do financially in preparation for challenging times? Should we be leaving cities, finding safe havens, saving dry goods, or helping to help ourselves and others through challenging times? Getting a gun for security, buying gold or silver for currency. Yeah, great question. I've said this before. I've actually been talking about survival and prepping for years and years and years now. And even just maybe like before this whole George Floyd thing blew up, my mother-in-law is like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to go into, our food reserve because everything's settling down with COVID. And I said, no way. You don't want to be touching those food reserves for probably another year. Or 4 years, right? Because it's only going to get crazier. And she's like, really? I mean, are you sure that, the whole COVID thing is not going to be the craziest thing that's going to happen? And I said, it's not going to be the craziest thing that's going to happen. So as far as what you need to do to get prepared, 100%. Take some of your money, not all of your money, but I would say 10% of your money, as long as you can afford to take the 10% of your money and put it into gold and silver. Maybe it's $100. Well, I recommend silver over gold, and there's many reasons for that, but I won't get into them. Okay. So silver, buy silver. Take even $100 and buy silver with it, okay? Just have some of that reserved. Don't have all of your money in your savings account or in the bank account, right? So a lot of you have pulled stocks recently, probably a good choice, but don't have that money just sitting in the bank. Right? And I don't know if a piece of paper that says 100 on it is even going to be worth burning in the future. You know what I mean? So I haven't gotten any like huge insights on this, but I have been led divinely to a lot of materials and a lot of individuals who help me get prepared for potential future outcomes. Okay. So I definitely recommend food and water for at least 3 months. For all of your family members. like, I mean, we live in an 800, 750 square foot, very tiny place, and yet half of it is filled with food and water, right? So you have no excuse to not have food and water reserves. All right, it's simple. Absolutely get out of cities if you have an opportunity to get out of a city. I recommend making the change, right? Especially now that a lot of jobs moving forward are going to be at least part-time, remote working. So highly recommend that. Okay. All right, let's see if we can have one more question here. Okay, so another question here. I feel like a lot of us are getting frustrated that things aren't happening as quickly as we'd like them to. So my question is, how do we stay grounded and trust that in the universe, that everything is happening exactly as it should at this time? But also, are you able to ask the Galactic Federation for at least one major change and its timeline to keep us going? First of all, if any of you think that the movement of the activities on this planet are slow, look around you. I mean, things are happening rapidly. They're happening really, really fast at this time, all right? So please keep in mind that, I mean, it's happening. I mean, you have the evidence all around you that things are changing. And whether you perceive them as negative, positive, as an illusion, as a distraction, as a, defense mechanism or whatever, right? However you perceive them, things are changing. However you perceive Trump, things are changing politically, right? So it doesn't matter how you perceive things because you're only perceiving them from a limited 3D perspective. It really just matters that we're finally starting to see a change in all areas of the globe right now. Okay, and then also, can you ask the GFL for at least one major change? I still believe that we're probably going to get hit by a solar flare. I did talk to an astrophysicist just the other week. We had a good 2-hour conversation. He was a speaker at the last conference that I was a speaker at. And not only do we believe that a solar flare is bound to hit, and I think one big one just hit not too long ago, but also we believe that a huge cosmic solar event is going to happen probably within the next 4 years. If anything, within the next year or so, with the solar flare, okay? So just kind of being aware that it's time to get prepared, and the Galactic Federation has already made it very clear that the number one biggest event that's going to happen is the downfall of every aspect of the global society in the next 4 years, right? So boom, we have, healthcare system, then we have equality for minorities, then we have hopefully environment, then we have this and that and whatever. Okay, so please be aware that things are changing. We are starting to really turn things around, but we have to blow it up. We have to, not literally, but figuratively, right? We have to literally raise the concern for the corruption that has been going on for a very long time. All right. So please be aware of that. Things are changing for the better. You signed up to be here right now at this time. And tomorrow, my video at 2:55 or 5:55 is going to be all about the quantum world. I'm going to teach you all about how to manipulate and maneuver the 5D frequencies of this new world when you start stepping into it, right? So let's stop dwelling on 3D projection and bullshit. Let's really start to think about, okay, great. I mean, the world can be in absolute chaos and you can still be in 5D. So how do you maneuver that? So I'm going to be talking about overriding space and overriding time and how to basically experience glitches in the matrix and how to hop timelines and how to manifest and manipulate the world around you. It's going to be really cool, and I've been getting tons of downloads on this recently. Okay, so I'll see all of you tomorrow, and then for those of you who are not a member, sign up and be a member because this video will only be available for 24 hours. And I always get messages saying, where did the video go? Okay, you have to be a member to see it after 24 hours, so it'll be taken down tomorrow. Love you guys so much. Keep up the good vibrations. Keep spreading kindness and awareness and equality to everyone. Don't hate me for saying that, because I truly do believe it, that every single person on this planet and every single plant and animal and ant on the ground deserves fair and equal treatment. So let's just keep spreading that and love, all right? Bye, everyone.